Hello, this is my review on Black Metal Veins. This is the new Lucifer Valentine documentary that just recently came out. This is like my third time actually starting this review, so I'm really hoping I can get through it. It's a difficult one. I'm having a really hard time reviewing this film. I think for several reasons. Number one, it's really hard for me to give my open and honest opinion on this without getting too personal about my life and my past and other things. It's also really hard to give a really true, open, honest opinion about this without getting too specific about certain things in the movie. In other words, spoilers. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, so don't worry. You're totally safe here. But this is difficult, honestly difficult to really talk about this without mentioning specific things. So I'm trying. Okay, so bear with me. So what do we have here? This is a documentary by Lucifer Valentine. This is a brief journey into the lives of five extreme drug addicts. The drugs being heroin and crack cocaine for the most part in this film. And it's a straight up documentary. This is a complete departure from Lucifer Valentine's other movies. In other words, if you're expecting vomit gore, you're not finding it here. This is completely different. It's a totally different genre of movie here. It's a straight up documentary. And I think really at this point in our lives, we've all seen a lot of documentaries and shows on addiction and extreme drug use. A lot of them, I know I have. I've certainly seen a ton at this point. So why are we watching another one? It's because it's Lucifer Valentine. All right. It's different. It's worth it. I don't think he necessarily takes us anywhere extremely groundbreaking as far as subject matter goes. Into this whole genre of documentaries dealing with addiction and drug use. But we would be idiots, complete idiots, if at any point we allowed ourselves as viewers to get comfortable or feel safe. Because Lucifer Valentine always finds a way, and this is no exception, to push the boundaries, take us over lines, put us in places that we are completely uncomfortable being in. So that's why we're going here again. That's why we're bothering with another documentary on drug abuse and addiction, because this is no different. This movie takes us into some really dark places. This movie goes places that I certainly was not expecting. And again, I don't want to talk about these things because it would definitely be a spoiler. But you can definitely expect some real despair, some real darkness, some really uncomfortable shit. All right, in this documentary, in this film. Even though this is a total departure from Lucifer Valentine's other movies, it's important that you know that Lucifer Valentine's style and his presence is still extremely heavy in a lot of parts of this documentary, which of course is thrilling to those of us who love his style. In other words, he does a lot with his style, his editing, his sound, and uses those techniques to put the viewer in a very specific mind frame, in an emotional place. And as usual, it works. He does a great job doing that. This documentary starts out, I don't want to say it starts out light, but it starts out, I don't know, I guess light, a little bit in a light place where it's kind of a little chaotic. We're watching these people, do their drugs, have a good time, talk with each other, interact as friends. And the movie progresses. It gets increasingly more dark as we go through this movie together. One thing that I really love that he's able to do in this film is he's able to really take the viewer into what it was probably like for him as the filmmaker, as the sober guy in the room. anyone who's had any experience with people who've done like really heavy drugs like this, you know how it can be once they get in their zone. Um, at the beginning, the way he uses his style and the editing, we're with these people as and they're having these conversations, and the conversation is swirling, and it's so chaotic, and they're jumping from topic to topic, and it's agitating as a viewer. I mean, you're watching it and you find yourself getting really agitated, and this is really true to life. If you've spent any time with drug addicts and see how they can be when they get in the zone, when they're around each other like this. He does a great job. Lucifer Valentine does a great job showing us what it's like to be in that situation with these people, and as they interact with each other. Very, very well done. Very well done. It's an agitating experience with the editing, and that's very true to life and how it is when you're hanging out with people, yeah, that are getting high and really fucked up on their drugs, and just kind of having their conversations and doing their thing. So, all right. So this movie, like I said, you go into some really dark places. I'm not going to be specific about it. I promised you that. But this movie is going to cross lines for a lot of people. Don't think that just because it's a documentary on drug addiction, something we've seen a million times, that you are not going to be pushed to your limits in fucking watching this movie, because you are. I was shocked. I found myself not breathing for certain scenes. It was very uncomfortable. It's absolutely, it's bravo. Good job, because to be able to take us into a subject matter that we're all so familiar with, and take us into a genre of film that we've all spent probably a lot of time in at this point, and to be able to make the viewers feel really dirty and desperate and just, in a dark place. I mean, it's well done, because yeah, good job on that. One thing that I cannot stress enough with this movie, I cannot stress this enough, is after you've watched the film and you've allowed everything to sink in a little bit, you have to go back and watch it with the commentary. You have to. I'm not recommending it. I'm telling you, you have to do this. You're gonna undoubtedly have questions. You're gonna have a lot of questions. Well, not a lot, but a few questions when you're done watching this movie. Some things that you're just gonna need to know the answers to. Going through and watching the commentary is gonna answer these questions for you. It's also gonna make you feel better about things, if that makes any. I don't want to say why, but it's gonna, trust me, it's gonna comfort you a little bit watching the commentary, and I think it's kind of an experience we need, almost like therapy. If that, it probably doesn't make any sense what I'm saying right now to those of you that haven't seen it, but the commentary is necessary. It helps to kind of soften the blow, if you will. And this brings me to kind of a weird spot with this movie. I should mention at this point that I, right now as a viewer, am completely incapable of being totally objective over any of Lucifer Valentine's movies. I cannot go into a movie and watch it and just look at it for what it is as a movie. I've got to, at this point, take everything into consideration. And what I mean by everything is all of his past work, him personally as an artist, his public image. I'll talk about that in a minute. But all of this comes into play for me now, and I think this is just because I've spent so much time really immersed in his art, talking about his art, experiencing his art. I really can't look at one piece on its own. Everything comes into play at this point. And when you're watching the commentary, you'll notice that he spends a lot of time talking about the paradoxical behavior of the people, the subjects in this film. this was interesting to me because I'm starting to see that as an artist, Lucifer Valentine is somewhat obsessed with the paradoxes that we experience in life and the paradoxical behavior of people. And that's something that I talked about in my other review of the box set of the trilogy, is the prevalence of these conflicting themes and these conflicting emotions that we feel as viewers, how he really does very well in contrasting the beautiful with the grotesque. And it's all very paradoxical when you're watching this stuff and you're seeing something so dark and ugly and grotesque, and at the same time something so beautiful and almost peaceful and serene and surreal. And these contrasts and these conflicts and these paradoxes, I've noticed, is something that he's really obsessed with as an artist. And this is definitely noticeable in this, and he talks about it a lot in the commentaries. And it's not just in his work, it's also him as an artist. If you've ever spent any time reading anything about Lucifer Valentine, any of his, I don't know if I should even go here, any of his interviews, he's done a ton of them, and I actually hadn't read very many up until kind of recently, which was kind of an interesting experience to go back and read these things after being so familiarized with his art and getting to know him a little bit more on a personal level. To go back and read these interviews as kind of an afterthought was interesting. And that whole paradox is very, very, very prevalent there as well. You've got this public image, this persona that he's built up. And God, I hate to use this word, but it's almost monstrous. Sorry, Elvie, you know I adore you to no end, but it's almost monstrous. And then when you go and you watch these commentaries and you interact with him on these message boards and on Facebook or wherever you're gonna, interact with him, he's incredibly easy to talk to. He's incredibly articulate, incredibly well spoken, very intelligent, dare I say, extremely educated even. And it's very paradoxical. Him as a person, the person that this image has been kind of built around, and then the person that you get in these commentaries, and on a more personal level when you go to interact with him on these message boards and wherever. So I don't know why this all came into play so strongly after this movie. Maybe because he spent so much time talking about it in the special features and in the commentary. It just kind of came all to a head for me. But I found it all very interesting, and I think that it's a theme that we can all kind of relate to, because I think that most of us have kind of these conflicting parts to ourselves. I know that I certainly do. I've definitely got, more than one side to my personality, without a doubt. And so I think we can all kind of relate to these different paradoxes, and I think it's very interesting and appealing to a lot of us. I know it certainly is to me. Wow, I've talked for a long time. I think I'm going to stop here. So I highly recommend getting this. It's the documentary Black Metal Veins by Lucifer Valentine. It's absolutely wonderful. You're going to fall in love with the characters. You're going to be pushed beyond your limits. And yeah, and you'll probably love it, hopefully, as much as I did. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry that I took, Jesus, almost 15 minutes of your time. Good night.